Flashback 7.2 Learning about the Roses of Ambivalence. Apparently, the distance between Athlone, Ireland and Prague in the Czech Republic, per my phone app, was precisely 984 miles to fly, or 1,237 miles to drive. Though I had to wonder, how does one drive from Ireland all the way to Prague in the Czech Republic? I guess there were some kinds of ferries or transports across oceans, channels, whatever. Although I already knew from my internet research that Tiny explained the plane could fly just over 6 hours until it was out of fuel. And so unfortunately he also explained we had to stop to refuel along the way in order to make our longer flight. The flight to Prague took the better part of the day, but we made it despite being in a slow turboprop cargo plane in about 5 hours. I imagine a jet would have taken about 2 nonstop, but again, we were in a slow turbo propeller, old rattling cargo aircraft. So we had 5 hours to kill, as the saying goes. We finally did, by that statement, have some downtime in between the wild ride that we had been on since Seattle. Katie and I sat at the plane's RV meeting dinette. The dinette table was not big, but it was offering a comfortable enough seat for all 3 people, uncomfortable for 4. Anymore, they would just stand around the table or in an adjacent little aisle that was there. I said, well, hey guys, let's go over the Roses of Ambivalence scroll and the stuff that we know about them. Bob overheard our chat topic and, interested in all things going on with the team, even if jaded, meandered over and sat by near us. He joked, I'm bored. Might as well learn something about your rose, and maybe we can go over our Captured Cult Accountant book and Tome of Baal, which was apparently some indoctrination book, you thought. Bob said darkly, you need to know the truth of the situation, whether it's good or bad. You gotta see what's coming, or you're gonna lose your head. Sticking your head in the ground is a sure way to have it ripped from your body and buried when they bulldoze over you because you never saw it coming. So yeah, it's great. Let's use our flight time to digest all the stuff we collected and learned. I do appreciate it. I want to be ready. Sarah McGilvray of the Midnight and Associates, and now a new member of our team, was awkwardly inserting herself here and there throughout the flight. I could see she was making a great concerted effort to ingratiate herself with the team by offering any help or service that she could, right down to fetching coffee or snacks. I challenged her for potentially demeaning herself, but Sarah was determined to be part of the team. She hovered near a corner of the dinette, leaning on one of its aisle side bench back corners, biting her lip as she listened. Tiny was seated in the pilot seat using a phone app, though the plane was flying on autopilot. But he was there in the event of an emergency. It seemed funny, Tiny was using a mobile phone on an airplane, something that has been forever alleged to be dangerous on every flight. And he was the pilot. Oh well, whatever. The deputy remained in earshot to listen to our discussion, but she seemed more focused on her activities, cleaning weapons and body armor, unloading and reloading rifle magazines and pistol clips. And of course, she had a thin black cloth laid out with a litany of gadgets, vials, pill packs, spray bottles. And finally, she had a huge inventory in her backpack and duffel bag. Grappling cord and hook, matte black PVC parkour, nighttime camouflage clothing, wrist and head low-light LED lamps, military extreme bright LED flashlight, watch and wearable walkie-talkie radios, wrist shuriken launcher, wrist pop-out arm blade and knife, belt buckle knife, high-tech Swiss Army knife universal tool gadget, tiny little binoculars, an even tiny nose-fitted gas mask. Oh, and 8 small plastic-wrapped packs of white clay-looking substance with small, visible timers and a little gray button on the underside of the timer. The deputy explained to me that depressing the gray button for 8 seconds would activate a 60-second countdown. Apparently, if the button is held down without releasing it, for another 8 seconds it will turn off the timer and activate a vibration trigger mode. What was a vibration trigger mode? Well, apparently it can be left as a trap on doors or lockers. They were even effective as landmines, and taping on a phone with a vibrate ringer so that you could call it and it would trigger and explode. Or in desperation, apparently you could well time it and throw it like a grenade. The deputy was always an inspiration in her preparation and detail, and all the resources and tools that she always had at the ready. And when the deputy was done with cataloging and preparing her gear and bags, she went on to ours as well. She took it upon herself to make sure everyone had the right gear and that everything was verified to be in top working condition, fully loaded, prepped, clean, and ready for use. The deputy left very little to chance. She sought to reduce as many variables as possible from any plan that we made, so we could control everything that happened. And if there were the few things that mattered most, we could focus on them for our success. Well, back to my chat with Katie, Bob, and Sarah present, and Taylor in earshot. I opened our talk. Well, Katie, we haven't had much time to look at the Roses of Ambivalence scroll or talk about all the stuff that we've seen, heard, and learned about. Katie nodded. I want to know everything. My palm needs to know everything, she chuckled nervously, as she held her rose-bitten right palm upright to be visible for everyone to see, showing her rose tattoo scar with the eye in the middle. She traced the rose scar outline, following its rose-shaped pattern that surrounded the eye in the center. The eye looked identical to the eye on the celestial white marble Knights Templar round table. Katie Rose bite tattoo was so similar to the Illuminati eye on the pyramid on the United States dollar bill, too. I unfurled the Rose of Ambivalence scroll across the dinette and weighed each corner with a random object, 2 coffee mugs and 2 plates. There were runes and cryptic symbols and drawings all over the parchment, and there were 3 rolled sheets inside. 2 were blank, surrounding one between the sheets that was not blank, seemingly to isolate it from everything else around so that it was not touched. The middle sheet was a translation for the scroll itself and its rune and drawings. It was remarkable and quite convenient. I chuckled to myself. It is like they wanted us to be able to read the scroll. Anyway, so I traced my finger along the Roses of Ambivalence scroll parchment with my left hand index finger as I traced the matching translation section on the middle sheet translation paper with my right index finger. I read aloud key passages and summarized my takeaways as I touched each key word, drawing, or section. The Roses of Ambivalence are forever, and they are everywhere. They span all planes of existence. Each rose bush exists in physical space, simultaneously on the mortal plane, and in hell, and in heaven. And as they overlap each other across the dimensional space, they are everywhere in all planes at the same time. It was a complicated idea to grasp. It sounded like the roses somehow could be seen, touched, interacted with, whether you were standing in hell, heaven, or earth. It was like they existed at the same time in all three places. That was mind-bending crazy sounding. Of course, Lesky previously explained to us how heaven, hell, and the mortal planes coexist, overlapping each other across planes like dimensions. So it seemed the roses existed in each of them at the same time. They were like cross-dimensional, interdimensional. I wondered if someone in hell would see someone pluck a rose from a bush and they would see it float around while they carried it. I continued, the roses channel hell and heaven's power straight into the person touching the rose. They are able to absorb and relay the celestial power. The roses are conduits into the human that touches it. Apparently, the roses can bless or curse or heal or kill. It came down to which plane was channeled into the person, apparently. Hell, heaven, or mortal. And which rose that could channel celestial power could be identified by colors. And so the color of the rose generally guided whether the person was to be touched by hell, heaven, or just the mortal plane. The roses of ambivalence came in many colors, but only red roses brought blessings or curses. Red roses, apparently blood red and ruby red, varied in hue, making them indistinguishable from each other. But their effects were very different. Blood red roses may curse those that touch them. Ruby red roses may bless those that touch them. And of course, we did not yet know what being blessed or cursed meant in practice. And then there was another colored rose, mixed black and white swirled colored petal roses. Black and white swirled roses apparently could kill a person or could cure an affliction on contact. It was life or death, cure cancer or die on the spot if you touched a black and white swirled rose. Every other color was just that, a rose that happened to span all planes of existence and dimensions. Wow, guys, I exclaimed. I realized something huge. The flaming dagger of choice and destiny can hurt and kill beings in heaven and hell. I bet the dagger also exists across all planes, like the roses of ambivalence. And so that's why the dagger can hurt demons and devils. It hurts them in their world permanently, as if we were standing there in heaven or in hell, striking them, burning them with its fire.